Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm finally starting the new series, and this is what if Naruto had Shikotsumyaku, which is the Dead Bone Pulse, or as you might better know it, Kimimaru's Kekigenkai, like the Kekigenkai of the Kaguya clan. And as promised, there will be no dojutsus or wood release in Naruto's arsenal because that's just I just do that too often. So, anyways, I'm going to give him a few elemental Kekigenkai, but not wood release. So, anyways, before we get started with this video, I would like to thank all of you for your support and your help in helping me reach 2,000 subscribers. It's a big milestone. You know, I can't believe that, in such a short time, I managed to get so many subscribers. Thank you so much. Um, I hope you continue helping me out. So, with all of that said, let's get straight to it then. So, first, let's talk about Naruto's parentage. So, my initial plan was to make Minato Namikaze and have Kushina have one parent as a Kaguya and one as Nuzumaki, but then yeah, his blood becomes a lot stronger when more when he has more Uzumaki in it. So of course, Minato has to be the Kaguya here. So in this story, Minato still develops the flying Raijin and all that stuff. But the specialized kunai that he uses are made from his bones, and he never really got farther in manipulating his bones or using his bones to fight. And he was banished from the Kaguya clan because of his peaceful ideals, and that's why he settled down in Konoha. And also, like along with his peaceful ideals, he didn't awaken his Genkai early enough, so they thought that he was useless, which is the opposite of you know what was the case. So basically, Minato came to Konoha at the age of 10 when he was a refugee from the Mist Village. So he then entered the academy, and that's how the story goes from there. And I know that Konoha would be reluctant to make a foreigner the Hokage, but you forget that Konoha has a huge uh, bloodline boner. So, and also Hiruzen, recommended Minato for the Hokage position, and they trusted his judgment. So, of course, Minato was made the Hokage. But then, anyways, that is kind of getting too far ahead of ourselves because Naruto was actually born before Minato became the Hokage. So, Minato married Kushina 5 years before he became the Hokage. And after only a year of marriage, they had Naruto, or should I say, Naruto was born. And of course, they did take the same safety measures that they took for um, Naruto's birth in canon. But since Obito didn't defect from the village yet, or get caught by Madara yet, or like get saved by Madara, whatever, you know, get recruited by Madara. That's better. So he didn't get recruited by Madara yet. So of course, the threat wasn't actually there. But then precautions were taken. So, anyways, after after Kushina gave birth, the nurse wrapped Naruto in a blanket, and first Kushina didn't hear Naruto cry, and then Kushina was like, um, "Nurse, is my baby boy okay?" And the nurse was like, he is alive, but then he's not crying." And Kushina was like, "What do you mean?" And the nurse was like, "It'll be better if I show you." And Minato and Kushina both looked at the baby. When the nurse turned Naruto so that he faces his parents. Naruto just uh, was there with a curious expression on his face, and Minato's like, "This is most unusual." He seems to be self-aware, but for some reason he doesn't cry. And the nurse just nodded, and Minato was like, "I want you and the entire and the hospital to perform a full physical examination of him. How long should we wait until it's safe for you to do that?" And the nurse was like, "Bring him back to the hospital once he's 8 weeks old. That's the minimum age for a physical examination." And by the way, guys, don't quote me on that, and bring up your numbers for like when the actual age is, when it's safe to perform a physical examination, because like I don't know. I'm just guessing, not even guessing, like just making up a number uh, for the purpose of the story. So, anyways, Kushina was like, "Well, all of that can wait until later. Can I see my child?" And the nurse nodded and gave Naruto to Kushina and Minato, who took a closer look at him. And they saw that Naruto had tufts of red hair with streaks of white in them, and a brown shading under his eyes, like how the normal Kaguya clan has. And he had vibrant green eyes. And Kushina was like, "Minato, why doesn't he have those spots on your forehead like you do? On his forehead like you do?" And Minato was like, "Oh, the only distinct markings that we are born with are the shade under our eyes, or is the brown shading under our eyes. The brown dots on our forehead are actually a branding that signifies our connection to the clan, that signifies us as that signifies the person is a member of the Kaguya clan." And Kushina just nodded before glaring at Minato, and she was like, "Don't you dare use that branding on him." And Minato was like, "Wouldn't dream of it, Kushina." And Kushina just smiled, and they took Naruto back home. So now we fast forward to 8 weeks. And during that time, Kushina and Minato observed that for a baby, Naruto didn't have much baby fat, and he had an unusual amount of muscle. He wasn't buff, like in terms of a child, but then um, for a baby, he was pretty buff, and like unusually buff. And they wondered what the hell was going on. And when Naruto got hungry or needed a change in diaper or something like that, he would never cry. Instead, he would knock on the crib. And Kushina and Minato were very perplexed at this action that Naruto was taking, and were wondering why Naruto wasn't crying. And also, when they thought about it over the past 8 weeks, Naruto didn't really show much emotion except smile at them from time to time. And Minato, noting this observation, he was like, "It's as though he has went through the emotional conditioning of shinobi already." And Kushina couldn't help but agree with him. And now they had to go for the physical examination. The nurses and the medical ninjas all performed a bunch of tests, which I won't really elaborate on because there's no point. And once the report came back a few days later, Minato looked at a nurse and he was like, "Well," and the nurse was like, I don't know how you'll take this Lord Hokage, but yeah, he has extremely strong chakra." And Minato was like, "Alright, I don't see what's to worry about that." And the nurse was like, "I know, but he just has massive quantities of chakra. His chakra coils are already extremely large, which brings the side effect of enlarging his muscles. His chakra is also extremely dense. If regular human chakra was like water, then his chakra is like wet cement." And Minato was like, that sounds rather strange." And the nurse was like, "That's not the worst of it, Lord Hokage. His chakra is." And Minato was like, what is it, nurse? And the nurse was like, it's red, Lord Hokage. His chakra is red. And Minato was like, are you positive? And the nurse was like, it was checked by Hyuga, sir. And Minato was like, red as in like a tail beast. And the nurse was like, I'm not talking about the reddish orange chakra that a Jinchuriki releases when they use the power of their tail beast. I'm talking about crimson red, like the color of blood, Lord Hokage. And Minato was like, I must find out more about what this red chakra means. I've definitely heard about chakra having different colors, but normally everyone starts off with blue. Shisui's turned green as he advanced his skills. Mine turned white. Kushina's and Itachi's both turned reddish orange, the color of the Kyuubi's chakra. And Orochimaru's turned purple. And he decided to ask Jiraiya about it later to see if he can find something about it from the toads. And then he just nodded at that, and he turned to the nurse and he was like, "Is that it?" And the nurse was like, "I'm afraid not, Lord Hokage. Right now, due to the fact that his coils aren't fully developed yet, we can't tell what chakra nature he has. However, due to extracting some chakra from him, we do know that he has four affinities. We don't know which ones they are, as his chakra is still at the stage where we can extract some of it and influence it to develop a certain chakra nature. However, the chakra natures itself didn't manifest yet inside his chakra." And Minato was like, "But it's not too uncommon for a chakra user to have multiple affinities." And the nurse was like, That is not too unusual, sir. The thing is, when we mixed two chakra natures together, uh, out of which both of them were made from his chakra, they combined to form an elemental Kekkei Genkai." And Minato was like, "What?" And basically, the nurse just was like, "It's true, sir." And Minato was like, "Hmm, this situation is stranger than ever expected it to be." And Minato was like, "I see. So is that it?" And the nurse was like, "That's it, Lord Hokage." And Minato was like, "What of his mental state? He rarely shows emotions at home." And the nurse was like, "It would be dangerous to have a Yamanaka clan member mind walk him, since he's at such a tender age and his brain is still developing. I'm sure if you give him time, he will turn out all right. After all, he is your son." And Minato just smiled, and he was like, "I hope so." So they brought Naruto back home, and suddenly, like when they went into his room, they suddenly noticed something that they kept missing throughout the 8 weeks. And that was the fact that whenever they entered the room, Naruto always seemed to be already looking at them, not even startled. And they decided to perform a little experiment. So Kushina was in Naruto's room, just interacting with him, and she asked Minato to come, you know, come into the room anytime he wanted. And like right before Minato opened the door, like as Minato was approaching the door, Naruto turned his head to look at the door, and soon enough he saw it open, and his dad walked in. And Kushina was absolutely flabbergasted at this, and she was like, He's a censor." And Minato was like, "What? Really?" And Kushina was like, "Yes, this experiment we did confirms it. He knew you were coming before you were there." And Minato was like, "That's wonderful news, Kushina." And they both just smiled, knowing that Naruto would one day become extremely powerful. So, anyways, now we time skip 2 years, and Naruto has already been potty trained. He can speak, walk, run, sit, like everything that toddlers can do. and he also unlocked his Shikotsumyaku or Dead Bone Pulse when his parents were giving him a bath, and they accidentally dropped him, and you know instinctively Naruto somehow managed to channel chakra into his body until a few of his ribs came poking out of his back, and to save him from the fall. And that's how Naruto was unhurt, and that's also how Minato and Kushina knew that he possessed the Shikotsumyaku bloodline. Anyways, Naruto also got to know his mother's friend Mikoto, and the sensei Tsunade, and he of course also got to know his father's sensei Jiraiya, and he also met his father's team, which was Obito, Kakashi, and Rin, and he had taken an immediate liking to Obito because of his dream to make the village better and protect everyone in the village by becoming the Hokage. And Naruto wasn't sure yet of what his dream would be, but then whenever Obito talked about protecting people who are precious to him, Naruto always resonated with that idea. And he also liked Kakashi. He wouldn't say like, but he respected Kakashi because Kakashi's entire demeanor was that of a ninja, and that of someone who knows what they're doing. And Naruto, of course, didn't like his stick up the ass kind of attitude, but he still respected his strength and his ability to restrain his emotions. So, yeah, and he also saw Rin as an older sister who would teach him about manners and how to differentiate between what is good and what is bad, uh, especially because his parents were extremely busy. His dad was a Hokage and his mom was a high-ranking Jonin, so they both always were quite busy. They did make time for Naruto quite often, but then it was mainly Kakashi's team, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Mikoto who spent you know a lot of time with him. And Mikoto would also occasionally bring her son Itachi, but then sorry, but anyways, she would bring her son Itachi to Naruto's house so that they both can interact. And Naruto and Itachi like immediately hit it off since they both had the same kind of demeanor. Yeah, and Obito came to see Naruto as the little brother he never had, and Rin also saw him the same way. And Kakashi at that age he couldn't care less. So he obviously interacted with Naruto and was nice to him because he was his sensei's son. But then other than that, he didn't really care much for him. Anyways, Minato and Kushina both recognize that since they are very prominent shinobi, they have many enemies, so they might try to attack Naruto um, to get back at them. So they knew that Naruto had no choice in the matter of becoming a shinobi or not, and they even decided to start his training early so that Naruto can get strong faster, and they wouldn't have to worry as much about him. So, since the age of 3, Naruto was trained by Minato and Kushina, and he was taught the most basic taijutsu and ninjutsu, such as what points of the human body if it can get the most damage done, and basically the weak points in the body, and some of the common chakra points in the pathways in the chakra pathways of the human body. And he was taught basic punches and kicks, not really much of a style, just to get him into the shinobi mindset. And he was also taught a little bit of the academy taijutsu style, and he was also taught the basic academy jutsus, which were the transformation jutsu, the substitution jutsu, and the clone jutsu, because all three of those were designed for a deception. And a transformation jutsu would hide his identity, and a well-timed substitution jutsu can save lives and help with a quick escape. And clone can also be used to trick the opponent and escape from the situation. Because since Naruto was so young and he still lacked the amount of strength required, to subdue an opponent, his parents mostly prioritized escaping from any harm. And Naruto learned all of these at an incredibly fast rate, and this absolutely amazed his parents because Naruto was an anomaly, since normally the balance of power between different shinobi stated that when a shinobi has more chakra, then they have less control over it naturally, and when a shinobi has less chakra, they have more control over it. However, Naruto had extreme amounts of chakra even as a baby, and he still was able to have a near perfect chakra control. And this was mostly due to Tsunade helping him with chakra control. And at this point, Tsunade hadn't left the village yet, and her bond with Naruto would be what stops her from leaving the village. So, Jiraiya also would teach Naruto, but then since Jiraiya wanted to wait till Naruto was older so that he can show him some of the more uh, powerful techniques, he decided to tell Naruto about his travels in the elemental nations and his experience as Konoha's spy master, to teach Naruto wisdom and how things work in the shinobi world and the reality of the shinobi world. And this caused Naruto to be extremely mature for his age, because with Tsunade around, Jiraiya couldn't teach Naruto about his perverted habits, and with Minato and Kushina around, Tsunade wasn't allowed to teach Naruto about gambling and alcohol. Of course, he is too young for alcohol, but then gambling. So yeah, and when Naruto was 4, Minato and Kushina received word of a civil war happening in the Mist Village because of the Kaguya clan's rebellion. So from Jiraiya's spy network. Minato wanted to save his young nephew, who was Kimimaro, um, who was actually his sister's son. By going to the Mist Village and saving him, and of course, like he had to assign him a mission. He couldn't leave on his own, so he asked Jiraiya to do that mission, and Jiraiya went to the Mist Village. So as Jiraiya was walking around in the general area where the incident happened, he sensed Orochimaru's presence, and he thought to himself, "No doubt that the snake bastard is here for Minato's nephew as well." So he decided to quicken his search and search for chakra signatures similar to Minato's, until he finally found one, and he finally found Kimimaro, and so that he wouldn't have to waste time there explaining, so that Orochimaru can catch up and give him a hard time. He quickly knocked the boy out and summoned a toad, and he hopped into the mouth of the toad to escape. Basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, think of the way he infiltrated the Rain Village in the canon Naruto. So, yeah, that's the same way he knocked out Kimimaro and escaped from the Mist Village and went back to Konoha. And once Kimimaro, regained his consciousness, he knew that he was in an unfamiliar place, and he was lying down on a bed, and he looked around and he was like, "Where am I?" And then Minato and Kushina came in the room that he was in, and Minato hugged Kimimaro, and he was like, "I'm so glad you're all right." And Kimimaro was like, "Uncle, is that you?" And Minato nodded, and he was like, "Would you mind telling me what happened in the Mist Village? If you need some time to rest before you tell me the story, I'll take my leave, and you can tell me when you're ready." And Kiyomaru was like, "No, it's fine. I'll tell you now." And Minato sat beside Kiyomaru, listening intently to for his explanation. And Kiyomaru said that his like not long after Minato left his sister in the care of her husband, she was her husband killed her. And by the way, guys, Kiyomaru was already born by now, so just saying. So, anyways, Kimimaru told them the whole story of the Kaguya clan, feeling that it didn't have enough power in the Mist Village, so it attempted a coup d'etat, and all of the clan members got killed except for him, who managed to escape. And like midway during the explanation, he started breaking down and crying. And Minato hugged him, and he was like, "Hush, it's all right. You can be with us now. You still have family here." And Kimimaru hugged him back, and he was like, "Thank you, uncle. I'll make sure it was worth the effort it took to save me." And Minato was like, "What are you talking about, Kimimaru? No matter what happens, it was worth it to save you." And Kimimaru just nodded and hugged him again. And Minato was like, "Would you like to see your little cousin?" And Kimimaru was like, "I've been looking forward to that ever since I knew of him." And Minato just smiled and nodded, and he told Kushina to call Naruto. And Kushina came back with Naruto, and Naruto was like, "So you're my cousin?" And Kimaru nodded, and Naruto went and hugged him, and he was like, "I'm so sorry about what happened to you." And Kimaru was like, "It's alright, Naruto. They weren't really family to me anyway. Only my mother was before my father took her away from me." And Naruto just nodded, and Kimaru was like, "Uncle, auntie, exactly how old is Naruto?" And Naruto looked at him, and he was like, "You could have asked me." And Kimaru was like, "Sorry about that. How old are you, Naruto?" And Naruto was like, "I'm 4." And Kimaru was like, "Only 4?" And Naruto was like, "Is that a problem?" And Kimaru was like, "No, no, it's just with the way you talk, it sounds like you're much older." And Minato and Kushina just nodded, and and they're like, "He's always been like that. But you also talk like you're much older than 7, Kimimaru." And Kimimaru was like, "Well, it's not like I've been raised in a happy place like Konoha, so that is to be expected from me." And Minato and Kushina were like, "Fair point." And Kimimaru was like, "Anyway, it still works out better for me that you're like this, Naruto. I don't enjoy indulging in mundane conversations." And Naruto just nodded, and he was like, "That's something we can agree on." And Kimaru was like, "Tell me, Naruto, have you awakened your bloodline?" And Naruto was like, "Which one?" And Kimaru was like, "You have multiple bloodlines?" And Naruto was like, "Yes, that's what my parents told me." And Kimaru was like, "Have you awakened this one?" And to demonstrate, he opened his palm, and out of that, a spike of bone came out. And Naruto did the same, and he was like, "Well, I did a short while ago, as you can see." And Kimaru was like, "Very well then, I'll be training you in using your bloodline." And Naruto was like, "Thank you, Kimimaru. My dad has very little experience in using his blood. He only uses it to make special kunais, on which he uses a sealing formula for his signature jutsu, the Flying Raijin. He mostly relies on sealing taijutsu and ninjutsu." And Kimimaru was like, and Kimaru raised an eyebrow, and he was like, "I was expecting you to tell me that I'm too young to train you or something like that." And Naruto was like, "I've been taught that underestimating others costs you dearly." And Kimaru was like, "You've been taught well." And Naruto was like, "Thank you. So when do we start training?" And Kimaru was like, "Well, I've awakened my bloodline when I was about the same age as you, and during these 3 years, I mastered 4 of the 5 basic dances of our clan." And Naruto was like, "Dances?" And Kimaru was like, "They are ways in which our clan uses taijutsu to fight. They make use of the different bones in our body." At this, Naruto simply nodded, And Kimaru was like, "Well, we can say your training starts from tomorrow then. However, I can't spend too much time training you because I have to work on the last dance." So over the next few months, Kimaru taught Naruto to get comfortable with his bloodline. First, by practicing pulling bones from different parts of his body until he could do it with little effort. And he first taught Naruto the main ranged attacks of the Shikotsumyaku bloodline, which were the finger drilling bullets and the drilling spears. And he explained to Naruto that he had to build up chakra behind his finger bones and unleash it at a sudden unleash it suddenly, so that it would create enough force behind the fingers. And while collecting his chakra behind the finger bones, he would also have to spin it at high speeds, so that once the finger bone is shot out, it would spin rapidly and act like a drill to increase the damage. So yeah, and he taught Naruto the same concept with the drilling spears, and those made use of his arm bones. And depending on the thickness of the spear that Naruto wants, he would either use his radius, ulna, or humerus bones. And over this time, he also learned the first two dances of, the Shikotsumyaku, and that was the dance of the willow, where he would open his palms and extend his ulna bones and use them to fight. And he also learned the dance of the camellia, which which made him take out a bone sword from his shoulder, which included the humerus, radius, and the ulna bones. And he would use that as a sword come spear to fight. And due to the strange shape of the bone sword, it would make his attacks more unpredictable, making the dance of the camellia quite a deadly stance. And next, Naruto started learning the dance of the larch, which was a defensive dance, which would make use of the bones in his rib cage and his arms to protect Naruto from an attacker. And this was also a very unpredictable dance because it would be extremely difficult to guess where the bone suddenly pops out from to defend from an attack, and it would be quite lethal to the attacker. Naruto also learned how to create a second layer of bone underneath his skin, because when Kushina and Minato learned of Kimimara's ability to do this, they told him to teach that to Naruto because it would save his life against an attacker who somehow manages to catch him off guard. And Kimimaro, seeing reason in their argument, taught Naruto how to do this. And during this time, Naruto also learned how to, use his Uzumaki chakra chains. As while he was learning the dance of the larch, he accidentally focused his chakra in certain areas without making the bones grow as well, causing the chains to manifest instead of the rib cage. So when she saw this, Kushina was absolutely delighted that Naruto had her Kekkei Genkai, and she trained Naruto in using it. And until now, Naruto can use 4 chains. Also, during this time, Naruto's chakra affinities were tested because Minato didn't want to wait any longer, as he got extremely excited when uh, you know he knew that Naruto was going to have elemental bloodlines, and he wanted to know and sate his curiosity to see which bloodlines Naruto would have. So when he checked Naruto's bloodline using the chakra affinity paper, the paper crumpled, split, became wet, and burned all at once. Even though that shouldn't be physically possible, but since it was chakra paper, it could do that. And Minato was delighted to see that he had 4 chakra natures, which were everything except Earth. And he was a little bit disappointed that Naruto didn't have Earth, but then he wouldn't complain because it was already a lot for Naruto to have this much power at all. So he was happy with it. And the only reason he was disappointed that he didn't have Earth was because several quite dangerous Kekkei Genkai were based off of Earth, like lava release, wood release, and explosion release. But overall, Minato and Kushina are extremely happy with their son's power. And Naruto's chakra capacity also grew quite a lot during this time. As when Naruto was born itself, he had half the chakra of the One Tails. When they took a measurement of how much chakra he would have, and the amount of chakra that Naruto had increased exponentially every year, as it reached the amount of chakra that the One Tail has by the time he was 3, and by the time he was 5, it reached the chakra level of the Two Tails. And this also caused Naruto's muscles to uh, increase in size and in strength and density to accommodate his chakra pathways, and now he was just as buff as a trained Chunin would be. And when Jiraiya asked the elder Sage Toad about Naruto's red chakra, the Sage Toad asked Jiraiya a question. He was like, Jiraiya, what does the color red represent? And Jiraiya was like, I don't know about that, uh, Lord Sage. And Gamamaru was like, let me tell you. Red signifies two opposing sentiments, which are love and hatred. Jiraiya, that boy's chakra color shows us that his chakra is not only much stronger and denser than a regular chakra, but it also shows us that he is a child of prophecy, Jiraiya. Or should I say, he is the guide of the child of prophecy. You must guide him, Jiraiya. If he feels love for this world, the one he guides will save it. Or if he feels hate to this world, the one he guides will destroy it. And Jiraiya nodded, taking in the importance of Naruto in the Elder Sage towards prophecy. And once Minato learned of this, he couldn't be happier that his son was going to take the shinobi world by storm, and he took extra care in guiding Naruto and developing his morals so that he would follow the right path. And even though Orochimaru wasn't exactly close with Minato, and guys, around this time Orochimaru is still in the Leaf Village. Anyways, Orochimaru did take notice of Naruto's strength while he was training, and he felt that once Naruto was fully trained, he would make an extremely great vessel for him, for his body, once he perfects the immortality jutsu. And Orochimaru always would secretly watch Naruto's training to see his developments each day, or as time passed. Obviously, Orochimaru couldn't spy on him every day, so he kept tabs on him every month. So yeah, and Orochimaru was extremely impressed as he saw Naruto already create a Shikotsumyaku Myaku jutsu of his own, as he built up boil release chakra behind his fists, and he released it all at once, making the fist that was made of bones pop out of his hand and crash into a tree and explode. And Naruto had aptly dubbed this technique fist cannon. And when Orochimaru saw this, he was absolutely drooling at the chance of having Naruto as his body, and but he couldn't really do anything other than watch for now, because whenever Naruto exited his compound, his parents' compound, he was always escorted by either Minato or Kushina, even though Minato was the Hokage. And there were many security seals placed in like around Naruto's house to keep him and his family safe. So Orochimaru couldn't bypass those, and he had to only observe when Naruto was training. Uh, he tried to see if he could approach Kiyomaru, but then he realized that it was the same situation with Kiyomaru as well. And even though he wasn't really Minato and Kushina's son, they did treat him as such, and they always protected him too. And this did piss Orochimaru off, but then there wasn't really much he could do about it, since he still had to keep up the facade of being loyal to the Leaf Village. And during this time, Naruto was also training academically, as Jiraiya taught him how to read and write, and he often would bring Naruto, books from different places in the world, so that he could increase his knowledge about the world and also learn to read properly. And Minato taught him basic mathematics as well as strategy, as he would play shogi a lot with Naruto. And he found out that within very few games, after he learned how to play the game, Naruto was easily beating Minato in shogi, and Minato that was when Minato knew that Naruto was a genius. A genius whose caliber was much higher than even his own. And yeah, also Jiraiya and Minato both helped Naruto, taught Naruto not Fuinjutsu, how to write, better as well, like, how to improve his handwriting as well, in hope of teaching him Fuinjutsu sometime in the future, which was an art that Naruto was very, you know, uh, interested in learning. And also, along with this, Tsunade taught him how to pack a first aid kit and basic medical first aid practices. And she also taught him about the human anatomy for both males and females. And since Naruto was very mature for his age, she knew that teaching Naruto the finer details of what makes a man different from a woman uh, would be alright, since he would be mature enough to understand and not make fun of everything. And she was right in that, causing her to often tell Naruto that he is way more mature than his godfather, who is several decades older than him. A statement that Naruto found very funny. And Tsunade also taught him the basic of life processes, and the biology of the humans, as she wanted Naruto to become a combat medic like she was. Something that everyone else didn't mind, because they knew it was easy to damage something, but it took skill to fix it. And learning a skill that would fix up a human after they're injured would be quite useful in the future. So Tsunade also taught Naruto about the different pressure points in the human body, and also how to use the basic mystical palm jutsu that all medical ninja use. And she would wait until later before teaching him the more advanced medical ninjutsu. And also, due to her fanatical obsession with chakra control, she made sure that Naruto had the most precise chakra control possible, and she even taught him elemental manipulation to help with his chakra control. And the exercises for these were, for wind is the same leaf cutting thing, and she even taught him how to cut rocks with wind. Or, like, she let him figure it out, but she gave him that chakra control exercise. And since Naruto didn't have access to a waterfall to help him with the final stage of wind manipulation, she decided that instead she would have Naruto slice a boulder using wind manipulation, which was a much more difficult exercise, but then it would give far more control over wind than the usual splitting the waterfall exercise. And he finished the leaf and the rock cutting exercise, but then he still didn't finish the boulder cutting one. However, that was because he was also studying elemental manipulation for the other elements. For water, the first level was soaking a piece of paper with water chakra, which is an exercise that Naruto did complete. And the second one was sticking his hands into a lake or a pond, and using water chakra to generate tides, which Naruto also completed. And the third exercise was dropping a large stone into a pool of water and using water manipulation to make the stone float to the surface, which Naruto was well on the way of completing, but he wasn't quite there yet. And then was fire. And the first fire manipulation exercise was taking a stack of hay and using fire manipulation to generate a small spark to burn the haystack, which Naruto did complete. And next was using fire manipulation to snuff out a fire, which was much harder, but Naruto mastered that as well. And the third exercise was to use fire chakra to hold fire in your hand, which is an extremely dangerous exercise if it wasn't done right, but it would give extreme control over fire chakra if it was completed. And the only reason that Naruto could afford to do such an exercise was because his body had regenerative properties, because of the effects of his red chakra, and also because Tsunade was supervising his training. And he wasn't done with the last step, but he was done with the first two steps of fire elemental manipulation. And last but not least was lightning manipulation, And in order to master that, he had to first use lightning manipulation to power a light bulb. And the second exercise was touching your fingers together and using lightning chakra to connect them with a small bolt of lightning. And the objective was to get your fingers as far as away from each other while still maintaining the lightning chakra as possible. And Naruto mastered these two lightning chakra abilities, or manipulation exercises, and his hands could go no farther in distance without hurting himself with the lightning bolt. And the third elemental exercise with lightning was to increase the power of the lightning by making it travel through an insulator, and also increasing your accuracy. And the exercise was to take a long plank of wood and run lightning chakra through one end so that it would come out of the other end from the middle of the plank, according to the line of symmetry. And that was the final exercise in lighting manipulation. And Naruto only completed the first two, as he did with the other elements. He still didn't start with the sub elements because his parents didn't have any idea on like how exactly to train his sub elements, because they didn't have their sub elements. So they only gave Naruto a scroll on chakra theory, like a lot of books on chakra theory, and what happens when you mix elemental chakra natures, and how the different sub elements are uh, created using the main chakra elements. This highly intrigued Naruto, and he studied it all the time. And also during this entire time, Naruto was a meeting with Itachi, who started his training to be a shinobi a year after Naruto did. And people were already calling Itachi the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. And Naruto was very happy that his friend was going to be a strong shinobi one day. And they would spar from time to time, but they would keep it to only taijutsu, since they didn't want the other person to get hurt. And also Itachi didn't unlock his Sharingan yet, so he couldn't really use any genjutsu. And he didn't learn how to use any Sharingan free genjutsu yet. All he knew was taijutsu and some fire style ninjutsu. And Naruto, while he didn't learn any ninjutsu yet, he learned chakra manipulation, and he learned how to use his Kekkei based taijutsu forms. And he also trained with his chakra chains. And at the moment, the maximum he could manifest was 4. And since Naruto wasn't allowed to use his bloodline for taijutsu because it counted as using weapons, Itachi and Naruto would often draw in spars, because Naruto wasn't that well trained in regular taijutsu that didn't involve his bloodline. So Naruto spent a lot of time training on that as well. After he saw that he was drawing with Itachi with regular taijutsu, since he knew that someday there could be a time when his bloodline wouldn't work due to it being suppressed or sealed or something like that. So in preparation for such a day to ever occur, he learned how to use taijutsu like regular people, without any chakra enhancement or without any bloodline. And along with this, he did many exercises to improve his strength, like push-ups and other bodyweight exercises. And Jiraiya also drew resistance seals on him once he was 5, to help train his muscles even more. And unlike gravity seals, the way resistance seals worked were that they would always oppose the direction of muscle movement. Like if you were to move your leg forward, the resistance would try to push it backward. Or if you tried a roundhouse kick, the resistance would try to push it the other way, making you need to use more effort in every movement. And the first level of resistance seals caused Naruto to feel like he was wading through water, which took him about a week to get used to, and start walking normally again. And it was safe to say that during this week, Naruto lost all his spars with Itachi because of the resistance seals. But Jiraiya told him not to tell Itachi about his resistance seals, because if the Uchiha clan found out about Naruto's training, they might try to make demands for training by the Sanin to be arranged for them as well. And understanding this, Naruto didn't tell Itachi about his resistance seals, but he did feel a bit guilty about not being honest with his friend. And even though he trusted Itachi, he decided to not disobey Jiraiya because he still wasn't aware of how politics worked. And speaking of politics, Minato did teach Naruto about how things worked in Konoha. And like while Naruto wasn't absolutely well versed, he knew how the laws worked, and he knew that most of the people in politics were in it for themselves, and there were several selfish and corrupt people when it came to politics. So he would have to train to recognize, you know, the true intentions of someone who's trying to, you know, make a suggestion. So. Yeah, and the life skills that Naruto learned were mostly from Kushina and Tsunade, because Minato didn't really do much work around the house since he was a Hokage, and since Jiraiya had a spy network, he would often do irresponsible things like eating outside or just you know, depending on someone else for food or a lodging. So he wasn't the best person to teach Naruto about life skills. And so, anyways, Kushina taught Naruto how to cook basic dishes like onigiri, ramen, and sautéed vegetables. And she also taught him how to repair clothes. And Tsunade taught him how to stay well groomed. And she taught him about nutrition and how to have a balanced diet and stuff like that. And while Minato and Jiraiya didn't have much to teach him with life skills, Minato would often have Naruto help him with his paperwork to teach Naruto the inner workings of the village, and Jiraiya would often take Naruto on fishing trips so that he could learn to hunt and fish in order to get food. And Jiraiya also taught him how to roast his food over a campfire in for when he goes on missions outside the village. So yeah, and by the way, Naruto's birthday isn't on October like it is in canon. Instead, it's sometime in January. So after he turns 5, Kushina gets pregnant, and 9 months later, she's prepared to deliver the baby, who turns out to be a girl from Tsunade, checking for the gender of the baby. And also Naruto use his sensory abilities to sense the fetus's anatomy, and he worked with Tsunade in the hospital, and Tsunade showed him the ropes, you know a few times. So Naruto knew how different a female fetus was from a male one. And also the different chakra signature of a female and a male. So of course he was able to tell that he would get a sister, who Minato and Kushina decided to name Natsume. And Naruto was very happy that he would be having a sibling because he found out that Itachi was going to be having a little brother soon as well. And Sasuke was born sometime in July. So when Itachi showed Naruto his little brother, Naruto found the scene quite endearing, and he longed to have such a relationship as well. And that made him even more excited to have a little sister. So now, finally, the fateful day happens where Naruto's sister will be born in October. And by the way, the whole thing with the mission going wrong at Karnabi Bridge happens, and Obito presumably dies, and Rin dies a few months later, because of Kakashi stabbing her. And this all happens when Naruto turned 4, like soon after Naruto turned 4. And on this day, almost 2 years passed since that day, when Obito supposedly died. And because of Naruto's sensory abilities, Naruto didn't believe that Obito was dead first, as he thought that still felt Obito's chakra signature in the world, but he didn't believe that he would be able to sense that far. And he just chalked it up to his affection for Obito, that he refused to believe that Obito was dead, so he just forced himself to accept that Obito was dead. Anyways, when Minato and Kushina were giving birth, and when Kushina was in the middle of giving birth to Naruto, sorry, not Naruto, Natsumi, Naruto suddenly sensed a chakra signature that he hadn't felt in a very long time. And when Kushina finally gave birth to Naruto, Naruto suddenly sensed that two chakra signatures, which were the Anbu who were guarding the door, were gone, which meant they were dead. And he suddenly remembered whose chakra signature he was sensing, and even though it became very malicious, he knew who it belonged to. And when Obito appeared in the middle of the room and took Natsumi, Naruto looked at him and he was like, Obito? And Obito looked at Naruto and cursed his luck. And he was having an inner dilemma right now because he loved Naruto as much as he loved Rin, even though it was a platonic kind of love between him and Naruto. Because I don't do gay ships. Nothing against gay people or any LGBTQ community, but it's just that I don't like making such ships between characters. So, uh, anyways, back to the story. Like Obito decided that he'd just deny, that he's Obito, and try not to involve Naruto in this, even if Naruto would end up hating him for the rest of his life for taking away his parents from him. Uh, Obito knew that this had to be done, and the Kyuubi had to be transferred into a different vessel so that by the time Akatsuki is ready with their plans, the opponent wouldn't be too strong. So he pretty much did the same thing, and Minato grabbed Naruto before he could say anything, and he grabbed Natsumi as well, and flying Raijin back to the house and told Naruto to protect his sister at all times. And Kiyomaru came barging into the room when he felt Minato flash into the room, and he was like, Naruto, what's going on? And Naruto was like, it's Obito. For some reason, he's attacking us. And Kimaru was like, what? And Minato was like, I thought he was dead, Naruto, are you sure? And Naruto was like, I'm absolutely sure. His chakra is much more malicious than before, but it can only be his. So Minato was like, thank you, Naruto, this will be useful information. And he flashed back to the battle to Kushina, and right as Obito was about to use the Nine Tails to kill her, he immediately rescued her and brought her back to the house and laid her next to Natsumi. And Naruto looked at the state his mother was in, and his heart almost shattered. And he was like, Mom, are you okay? Do you need me to heal you? Do you need me to get Tsunade? And Kushina was like, no, Naruto. That man, he extracted Kyuubi from me. I will die in a few hours. I need you to be strong for me and your little sister, okay? And a single tear came from Naruto's eyes, and he nodded at his mother with resolve, and ensured her that he would be strong for the family. And in the meantime, Minato was fighting Obito, and hoping that this would get him some answers as to why Obito was doing this. He was like, "Who are you?" And Obito was like, "I am Madara Uchiha." And Minato was like, "Ah, so you're affiliated with Madara Uchiha? But I thought he was dead." Obito, why are you serving Madara? And Obito was shocked, and he was hoping that Minato didn't hear what Naruto said. But he realized that it wouldn't be realistic to expect Minato to miss something like that. And he was like, "That's none of your concern." And Minato was like, "What happened to you? What did Madara do to you?" And Obito was like, "Enough, Lord Fourth. Summoning jutsu." And the Kyuubi came and started rampaging around the village. And Minato was like, "To protect this village, I will kill you, Obito. It was your dream to become Hokage and protect this village, but now you just seek to destroy it. To me, you are no longer Obito." And Obito was like, "I can care no less about what you think of me, Lord Fourth. But today is the day you die." And From here, the same fight happened between Minato and Obito, and Obito used Kamui to disappear somewhere else when Minato cancelled the contract between him and the Kyuubi, and Minato knew that the only way to defeat the Kyuubi was to seal it, and since Naruto's chakra pathways were already highly developed, he knew that it would be very dangerous to seal the Kyuubi inside his son, so he decided to seal it inside Natsumi. So he quickly flashed back to his apartment, and not his apartment, his home, and he took Natsumi and Kushina, but before he could go, Naruto quickly grabbed onto him, and Minato ended up teleporting him there as well. And Minato was like, "Naruto, what did you do? You cannot fight the Kyuubi. What if you get hurt? What if you die?" And Naruto was like, "Father, I have to contribute whatever little I can. You're the Hokage of this village, and it's my responsibility to protect you." And Minato was like, "Naruto, what are you talking about? I'm the Hokage, and it's my responsibility to protect my village. It's too late now. I just hope you don't get hurt, Naruto." And from here, the fight went on the same between Minato and the Ninetales, and Kushina, helped by stopping the Ninetales in its place. And Naruto was just watching in awe as his parents battled the Ninetales, and he saw how powerful they were. But then, in a moment of weakness, while Minato was sealing the baby into Naruto's sister, he saw the Ninetales claw move to attack his sister, and his parents jumped in the way. And Naruto was like, "No!" And in a burst of speed, he went in front of the claw and used his chakra chains to capture it. And he used the dance of the larch to grow his ribs and catch the Ninetales claw. And he went skidding back a foot or two. But his parents were absolutely amazed that Naruto was able to stop the Ninetales from piercing them, and he was able to hold back the entire force of the paw of the Ninetales, even though it was only half of it. Or wait, should I make it the whole thing? I guess I'll make it the whole thing. So yeah, Minato will seal the whole Ninetales into his daughter. So anyways, Minato was like, "Naruto, that was stupid and reckless. What if you died?" And Naruto was like, "If I died, then I would have died protecting my Hokage." And Minato was like, "Damn you and your sense of duty. Anyways, it's good that you did that. Thank you for protecting me, Naruto. Now I'll seal the Ninetales into your sister." And Naruto was like, "No, Dad, please seal it into me. I can only imagine how the villagers would treat her if you seal the Ninetales into her. They don't understand how sealing works. They'll think that my sister is the Ninetales." And Minato was like, "No, I'm sure they won't, Naruto. They will see her as a hero for holding back the power of the Ninetales." And Kushina was like, "Minato, for all the praising you get for being a genius, this is the stupidest thing you ever said. I know what it feels like to be ostracized because of being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I have faced that segregation whenever I interacted with the council. Luckily, my Jinchuriki status was not made public, but what if hers gets out? She will be the victim of the villagers' hatred." And Minato was like, "No, Naruto, inform Lord Third after this is done that your sister must be treated as a hero." And saying that, they said their goodbyes to Natsumi, and they sealed Ninetales inside her until all the effort that Naruto put throughout the day got to him, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep, or like unconscious. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and comment your ideas for my future parts for this channel, for this series, and your ideas for future what ifs and your thoughts on this video. So thanks for watching, guys.